necessarily have to be RPG stories. That's just the one I have the most interest in, and I feel I can actually talk about with the most that I feel like I can talk about with at least some experience under my belt. Go ahead and leave a comment down below. If you like the video, do all that good stuff. I really don't care about getting popular, but this is fun. This is fun to talk about, so I hope I can do this again sometime. And hopefully this isn't just one of those projects I give up halfway through. It's one of those projects I give up halfway through. Fuck. Okay, wow, so I was not expecting this. I actually embarrassingly kind of forgot about this channel. I made a video just for a one and done kind of deal, and it actually got the most reception I've ever gotten in any YouTube endeavor I've ever tried to make. So thank you guys, really, from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot to see that in only 3 months I've gotten pretty much 700 views and 20 subscribers. That's the most growth I've ever seen in any of my other channels. I have 4 others that I don't actually really upload on to anymore, but still, nonetheless, I am astounded, and I thank you guys for the generous comments. I appreciate them. And so it's 2:30 in the morning. I have the final D&D session for my campaign tomorrow, and I have no notes done for it. And we're going to be starting at 9 a.m. and it's going to be about an 8-hour session. So I thought the responsible thing to do would be instead to record more RPG horror stories and read them out to you guys, because I have a lot of fun doing them and kind of dissecting them. So hopefully you guys appreciate it too. So let's get right into it. The first one is interesting. It's called The Only Time I Had to Kick a Player. First big post on any subreddit, so I apologize in advance for the plethora of mistakes that may follow. TLDR at the bottom. Backstory: I have been DMing for about 5 years now, and this happened in my second year with my first long-running group. I was in my mid-high school years, and so were all of my players. The party consisted of 4 players in total: the lizard folk rogue, the human summoner, the half elf shifter, who joined about 3/4 of the way into the campaign, the Syrinx cleric, owl person. At the time of the story, we have been playing bi-weekly for about a year, and the system we used was Pathfinder. Don't at me, I like the classes. When I kicked off this campaign, it consisted of random assortment of folk who were interested in playing Pathfinder. The first few sessions were awkward because it was a random gathering, but over time people grew closer and becoming friends. During this, the party dynamic shifted realistically to how a normal party of random people would. All was well for the first few months of adventuring and merriment. After a while, however, things started to slowly fall apart. I do accept responsibility because my DMing was still awkward and messy, but the breaking point started to develop about halfway into the campaign. The party was nearing about level 6 when the cleric player just started to become toxic to the summoner and I. We both have Asperger's, a very mild form of autism, and so we made a plethora of mistakes in social cues and just not getting jokes. The cleric found it absolutely hilarious and mocked us with increasing frequency as the campaign continued. Okay, yeah, wow. Alright, immediately starting to shoot off into a not so favorable direction. Now, I am used to being made fun of for my sheer inability to get jokes and understand social norms, so I was not very bothered. That is one of the saddest things I heard of. High school is god-awful. Seriously, college is so much better. If you're in high school, just hang in there. I believe in you. The summoner, despite his attempts to hide it, was obviously getting hurt by the many comments. I counted it and it was about 32 snide comments per 4-hour session? Bro, this dude was making a job out of this. This guy was getting paid salary for these comments. Holy crap. Alright, so I talked to the summoner and we decided to confront the cleric about all of this, and at the start they understood and backed off for the next session. 2 sessions after, they were right back on that horse and with great vigor, as if they were keeping a list of missed jokes in their back pocket. This cycle continued for about 2 months before the shifter joined the campaign. They were a very close friend of mine and still are to this day. They only needed a single session to confront me about how the summoner was getting mentally abused by this cleric. I was not one to start drama, but she was able to slap a semblance of sense into my thick skull, and I had to have a final confrontation with the cleric. We sat down and I informed them that if they continued to make fun of the player that they would be removed from the campaign. They then yelled at me saying I gave no warning despite the many previous conversations asking them to stop. I repeated the warning and that was the end of it. Wait, okay, so this dude was complaining that they gave him no warning, and even hypothetically if the GM didn't warn them in the past, he was giving him a warning then. So why is he complaining? Whatever. High school. The campaign continued for about a month. During this time, I was constantly getting snide looks and angry comments from them, but there was nothing I could do. Alright, it took me a minute to make sure I was reading this correctly. Gave them a warning and they failed to follow it. That's how the world works. Turns out the cleric thought I shut the campaign down, but they learned that it was still going, and what followed was one of the worst displays of pure spite I had ever seen. Okay, I haven't read any of this. I'm ready for these juicy details. They texted me a long chain of excuses and sob stories, and I, of course, responded with how there is no excuse for being a jerk to someone. The whole purpose of these texts were to make them look like the victim to the many mutual friends we had at school. Suddenly, I was being asked by like 10 plus people why I would do such a thing to someone and was being yelled at and degraded by 5 plus people. I then repeated the story above and showed proof with the previous text messages, and only the 5 folks still hated me. The situation even flipped and they got flagged for lying to all our mutual friends. Seeing that their plan failed, they decided to take revenge by messing with me at my workplace. Now, we both worked at this restaurant/bar and we both cleaned tables for our jobs. I even recommended them for the job. Okay, so let me get this straight. This dude is running 2 jobs, one at a respectable restaurant/bar, and then the other one making fun of people with mental illnesses. Wow, I gotta say, I'm really impressed that he's half scumbag, half worker. They took it upon themselves to try and get me fired by any means. Never mind, he immediately jumped into scumbag for his actual workplace. Oy. Bumping into me when I was carrying dishes, stealing tables so I would get yelled at for not doing work, messing up tables I cleaned, and even trying to spy over my shoulder to figure out my login info so she can mess with my work hours? Oh, baby, she's doing some Mission Impossible stuff, basically making it look like I committed fraud. I, of course, brought this up to my manager, and some of them were awesome and helped me out by separating all our shifts. She continued to try to get me fired, but I left that job for college not too long after. I have no clue what they are up to, but on occasion, the cleric will text the shifter about how I ruined their life and friend group in high school. Oh, okay, I'll finish reading it, but wow. I felt something awful about the whole situation, and I definitely should have done something months before it got bad. Too long didn't read. Cleric in our party was mentally abused to another player and tried to ruin my life after getting kicked out, but received a huge reverse Uno card. Oh, baby. Draw 7. Okay, so I gotta say, I am really impressed. It was really funny because I was having a conversation not too long ago, and one of the people I was talking to brought up that there is basically someone that the type of person that will mess with the dog, right? They will rub the dog's head and do anything they can to bite this person. And when the dog finally bites them after being annoyed enough or hurt enough by them, they cry out that the dog bit them for attention. And the reason I bring this up is because I feel that it has a certain place in this. This person literally making fun of people with mental illnesses like it's no problem at the table, like they're not real people, and then all of a sudden crying out wolf whenever the GM steps in like a responsible GM should, well, after being pushed, granted, and giving them fair warning, and then they proceeded to keep it up 2 sessions later before finally the GM had enough and gave them fair warning, so they got kicked out. I think so far this sounds like a Disney movie that would happen. It'd be called something cheesy like Critical Liars or something like that. I cannot believe that this is what they were doing. I can see it now. Haley Oswald was just your typical everyday high school GM, but that all changed whenever the troublemaker appeared. And then it cuts to like a scene where she's walking down the hallway and everybody's staring at her and she's like talking to her best friend. It's like, why is everybody staring at me? We heard what you did to Sasha. You kicked her out, but I didn't. How will Haley deal with her popular high school drama? Tune in for Critical Liars, 7/8 Central on Disney Channel.
Alright, sorry if I sound a little bit different. I'll try to sync up the audio as best I can to match the same type of audio waves and formats, but I actually couldn't get everything done in one recording, so this is actually a follow-up one about 2 days later. So, this new one I found is called Problem Player Convinces New DM to Conspire to TPK the Rest of the Party. For those of you that don't know, I as a GM actually really despise this kind of thing. Conspiring with a singular player is somewhat fine most of the time, but when I really draw the line is when it's going to affect other players and the other players have no consensus on it. No consent whatsoever to manipulate their players in such a way, and so the GM just kind of has free reign to do whatever they want. So let's continue on to see what happens here. I have a forever DM of 4 years who I believe is great. However, as he's a forever DM, he gladly accepted the opportunity to be a player. Yeah, I think we all know that feeling as GMs. New DM asked if he could DM because he wanted to give it a try and just really liked the way that Forever DM did his stories. So we agreed on a time and a date and began a campaign that would last almost a year. To begin, my Forever DM has a homebrew world that has a constant timeline and ramifications for things that happen in the past affecting now and the future. From different campaign successes and failures, I don't know why there was a period there, but whatever. From different campaign successes and failures. New DM asked if he could use that world, and the two worked things out that New DM could introduce new things, of course, but trying to change the already established parts of the world through DMing was a flat no, and to naturally bring those changes through gameplay and player choice. Altogether, early on the game wasn't bad at all. He had interesting hooks and Forever DM was feeling refreshed being a player again. Roleplay between the group was really fun too. Some context about my character, as he was the only character of the original whom survived, and soon became a driving force for the adventure as the hooks the DM gave us mainly revolved around his story, leading him to fundamentally be the protagonist of the story New DM was making. I won't deny that main character syndrome is hard to resist, but I tried my best not to take advantage of that, and our group had been playing together for a while, so none of us had any bad blood about hogging or losing spotlight. All of us had moments to shine. He's a noble whom lost his prestigious family name due to an apparent dark history of his family being part of a demonic cult. Due to this, while adventuring, he focused on his training and strived to be the best fighter around, constantly looking for challenges to test himself and help others in similar plights as he had been. New DM, after 6 months, introduced Problem Player to us through his circle of friends, and we accepted him happily since he was a great voice actor and seemed like he would be a great addition to the party, until it became clear that he, as a player, had no intention of interacting with any of us and would show up to the sessions and begin to send PMs to New DM telling him of what his character was doing and whatnot. Okay, maybe this is just some nervousness from this player, who knows, but based off the rest of the story, I don't think this is actually what's going on, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Main group didn't think anything of it, as we were still having fun exploring the world by New DM's discretion, and the roleplay between the characters was fun, as our group explored the world ending growing evils one after the other, while Problem Player's character was simply there to share the loot, with little to nothing to add to combat or roleplay. He kept making plans with the New DM in secret, with which I don't know when Problem Player began to get him to conspire. But New DM's story began to suffer, and he seemed exasperated whenever our group would once again survive a dangerous encounter, making names for ourselves as heroes. So began the last session. Levels were around 9 to 10, and it seemed to be a rest period as we were taking 2 weeks off from adventuring to wait for the grand opening of a local adventurers guild. Problem Player locked themselves in their room for 2 weeks with the excuse of making magic items and didn't interact with us during the entire 5-hour session until the last hour. I don't know how many sessions these guys had together, but by this point Problem Player should have interacted at least a little bit with the party, but what do I know? I'm just a GM. Roleplay was cool. My character began to learn unarmed combat with the monk of the group as I was planning a level dip and wanted an excuse of how he would. Our warrior of the group made some awesome character development about not being strong enough to serve his god of competition, as he had previously been bested by a fearsome opponent whom also served the same god. All cool, lots of joking around of how he started training by deadlifting logs while the monk and I balanced while training combat on top of them. It was neat. Our last hour cometh. Dawn of the final day. 1 hour remains. First words from Problem Player the entire session. Alright, he gets the voice. I cast greater teleport to go to Chosen City. New DM. Alright, Problem Player. You teleport to Chosen City. Group, you suddenly see a large beam of red light shoot up into the sky, summoning dark, ominous clouds during your training. A dark being slowly descends from the sky and yells, "Finally, I am free." Problem player summoned a Demon Lord Stone Shard. CR21 versus a worn out from intense training incomplete party of 9 to 10. 2 rounds in, and a TPK, aside from problem player who teleported away. Demon begins destroying and a BBEG is born. A mysterious BBEG with no known ideals or motives, just destruction apparently. Pure chaotic evil. Session ended there, and our group agreed not to return to that sort of game, as there were a lot of red flags. I gave new DM a pass, as I know from these stories that it's hard to say no sometimes, but also seemingly favoring a protagonist of sorts was also bad. I don't know if there was anything I could have done, but what do you guys think? TLDR, problem player joins late into a fun campaign and derails it by summoning an unwinnable encounter, forcing a TPK with DM's approval. Wow! Alright, so this one actually hits very close to home for me, because for my first campaign ever as a DM, I made my players a sword that was a key to unlocking an unstoppable maw, which was this giant eldritch-like entity that would swallow the world. And basically, when they went to go encounter it, they had substantially less players than we expected them to have, as one of them died on the way, and they didn't pick up any 2 of the NPC fighters I was hoping they would, so they kind of unlocked the evil and the world was consumed. The difference between these two, besides the problem player, and I'll get to him for a second, is that once the players summoned this great all-devouring evil, I gave them a chance to run away instead of fighting it. Instead, what happened was another deity came down and opened up a portal and sent them to another realm where they could build up an army and go back and take their world back. I think it gave a lot of good backstory and kind of this... It turned a really, really shitty DM move into, I think, a good opportunity for players to have a nice backstory and kind of articulate how they're going to get revenge on this thing for eating their whole realm. Now, I guess the DM really wanted this player in the friend group to feel special and nice. Maybe it was their first time role-playing. I'm not sure. But the problem is, and we've talked about it in the past, is showing favoritism to a singular player, even the leader, right? Even the leader doesn't have to be favored by the DM, because chances are it's a party consensus and everybody gets spotlight. Remember that a leader is nothing without followers. So, you know, if you have a player in a leader role, it's simple. Just give the other players things that the leader can't do that gives them time to shine. If the leader is a rogue, for example, give the fighter time to do combat while the leader is doing lockpicking. Have him holding off waves of undead skeletons while archers rain down, but he aiming directly for the rogue, but he's parrying them away with his shield as, you know, the sound of sword slashing and metal on bone goes through. It makes it more dramatic and it gives that flair. This dude, unless it was his first time, had to know that this was a scumbag move. Not interacting with the party is okay if it's your first time, you don't know anybody there, which was the case, and he didn't know the actual players, and maybe he was new to playing D&D. But in a setting like this, after a few sessions, you kind of warm up to people and begin to experiment with what you can and can't do. It's all about trial and error and picking up on social cues. And even if you have a slight disadvantage on picking up social cues for whatever reason, then you can still kind of articulate why something works the way it does and why it doesn't. Very objective about it. This person's uncomfortable when I do this because of X or Y. So there are ways to get around that. Trust me on that. But it doesn't look like they were trying. It looks like the whole time their objective was to just screw over the party, derail the whole campaign, and message the DM. And I'm sure the DM thought it was a cool idea. Like, if someone came to me my first time DMing, it was like, hey, I want to do something kind of sneaky. I want to summon a demon lord. I'd be like, all right, where's his address? Where does this guy live? But now I know better. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for now. Sorry this took so long to get out. I promise that I will not take 3 months to upload another video. I just didn't expect this video to do as well as it did, or the last video. But I thank you guys for the support. And I thank you guys for listening. And if you have any suggestions for any horror stories in general or any other things to read, go for it, because I honestly hate reading, but I think doing these really helps me understand how to properly articulate and where to properly put my voice when I speak, if that makes sense. Anyway, again, just leave a link, I guess, in the description in the comments. And yeah, but yeah, thank you guys for listening. This is Up Tilt, Down Tilt, Dare, resetting neutral, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Later. New DM asked if he could use that world, and the two worked things out that... New DM asked if he could use that... New DM asked if he could use that world, and the two worked things out that's... Oh, okay, alright, oh no, it's gonna be one of these. Oh no! New DM asked if he could use that world, and the two worked things out that New DM could introduce new things, of course, but trying to change the already established parts of the world through DM was flat. Flat was a no? Okay, alright, hold on. Oh no, alright, I need to channel my ki. I can read this. I can read. I went to the public school education system. Oh no, I can't read.